Official time 6:38. Due back at 3 o'clock. Good luck. You go ahead and shut the live well on.
Hey, Alex and I's first tournament of the year. Headed out on Lake Mohawkson UMBCS tournament. Gonna need to have about 13 pounds today. We'll see what we can do. We're idling out, no wake. Boat 17. We'll check in a little later. So we had our first tournament of the season. It was long awaited, and we had done a fair amount of preparation. Had several days out there pre-fishing on the water, and wanted to share some of the things we learned about it that can be applied to bass fishing for sure, but any kind of fishing really. Learning how to kind of fish in that moment when the fish are in the springtime transition. It can happen quick up here in the Midwest in Wisconsin where we're at. It can happen in the matter of a week. You can go from spawning fish to pre-spawn, spawn to post-spawn. You can go through that whole cycle in a week up here, it seems, and so it can make it confusing. And as you go out, a week ahead of the event to practice, and maybe leading up to it in that week, and then what happens on that given day, that tournament day, can be altogether different. And some important takeaways for us we wanted to share with you for sure to kind of fish in that moment. So we took a little bit of a beating. I think we ended up, it's a league that's a tournament series, a team tournament series. It's chock full of some hammers. And we ended up finishing 24th out of 34. So not where we wanted, but really it's kind of misleading because we caught a limit and called a lot. And really the weights, 14 pounds won it, and we had about 10 and a half pounds, but had 2 dead fish. We lost a couple of fish and had some penalties. So, that pound coming back puts us up, maybe in the top 15. And we're two bites away at that point away from winning it. And but to win it, you've got to be doing the right thing. And that's what we wanted to talk a little bit about today. So we did catch some fish. In pre-fishing, I had gone out and found some pre-spawn fish and some spawning fish. So that was happening. And I had thought I had done something. Typically, the shallow areas, the bars, up close to the shore where you've got some pea gravel and some sand and some rock is where you're going to find the spawning fish. And that's where we found a fair amount of beds that were starting to be made, some fish on them, some fish not. It's like they had made them and left, and they can get pushed off too. So found some of that in practice, and so I didn't think that the visible shallow beds were going to be the way, because everybody can see them, right? And so then you're sharing what you find. You might get a small percentage of what you actually locate. So I looked a little deeper with my electronics, both side imaging and my forward-facing live imaging in perspective mode, and found some beds a little bit deeper in that 4-foot range, and I caught some better fish there. I caught some 3 and 4 pound fish there, and those are the fish you need. The 2.5s and the 2s don't do you any good in this tournament. Everybody catches them, and everybody comes in with that tightly wadded 10-pound limit, and that wasn't going to help. So I found some deeper beds, and I found some bigger fish on them, and so that was what we were going to target. And I didn't even think post spawn. I'll pop up a image on the screen here that shows the lake. You've got to consider that post spawn as well, that 9 to 12 foot of water immediately adjacent to the spawning areas, both the real close to shore areas and the long point areas. I was concentrating on the long point areas and those fish, those beds that I found out of that long point. And lo and behold, when the tournament came around, they were gone. And I was, fishing memories, and you just don't want to be stuck fishing memories. So fishing memories, yeah, you just don't want to be there. You don't want to be stuck fishing memories. And so we struggled, and I just never made that. I didn't have anything, right? So I didn't do the 9 to 12 feet of water immediately adjacent to bedding areas work. I knew about it, and I was even given some clues during the tournament fishing that we'd have, for instance, we were in one area where we had found some little bit deeper fish spawning, and we were throwing jerk baits, and say we drifted out into that 9 to 12 feet or off that break line, and we had some better fish surface up on some jerk baits we were throwing, and we just never registered that those were not bedding fish, that those were in fact post-spawn fish, and if we were backed out further yet, maybe into 15 feet of water, throwing into the 9 to 12, we'd have given ourselves a better chance. And so we missed that completely and just ground it out on that 4-foot stuff. We looked around real shallow, and that was a done deal. The real shallow bite was done. So after daylight, when fish were feeding a little bit up there, that game was pretty much over. And a couple things that did go right for us is we did find out that the barometric pressure change later in the day helped us with some feeding fish, right? So these fish weren't even fry guarding yet. I think they were just recovering from the spawn. They were pretty stressed out, and they were eating small crayfish. That happened 2 days before on the full moon. And we'll talk. I'm going to play a clip here of kind of the breakdown of the end of the tournament that kind of shows a little bit about what our thoughts were immediately afterwards. But the one key thing I think we missed was the 9 to 12 foot post spawn fish, and that most of the fish, the bigger fish anyways, all of the bigger fish I think, pretty much were the spawn areas, and then fished them thoroughly. And actually known what you were fishing for, you could have probably caught a very sizable limit. The bite wasn't great, but I think you could have had a better chance of winning this tournament had you concentrated on that. And that's what's so important about fishing the moment, understanding what's happening. We were fishing a memory, and then once you're there and you're like, I got to get my 5, then you just grind on your memory, and we were lucky enough to get 5. And then by the time we had time to think about bigger fish, we had deep hooked a couple of them, and they were looking stressed from the immediate post spawn, and so we ended up weighing in a little bit early. So lesson learned. And this can apply not just to bass fishing, can apply to any kind of fishing. Understanding where the fish are in that transition phase, and then hit those key areas. Hit the shallow, hit the mid depth, hit the break line where they're going to be pre, during, and post spawn, and then you give yourself the best chance on that given day to catch some fish. So I'm going to play that clip. I want you to stick around and listen to that ending clip, because there's some key takeaways in there that caught us fish at the end of the day too, related to the barometer, related to the fishing majors and minors, and what the barometer did and the wind shift did at that key point in the day. So a critical thing to keep track of. Okay, Alex and I are finishing up. We weighed in. Not really our day. We caught fish. Ended up weighing in 9.1 pounds. Had 5 fish, but we lost a fish, so we got a penalty. Weighed in a little bit early because of that. Make sure the rest of the fish survived. We didn't want to use the extra hour trying to get a kicker, which is generally what you do. We decided to bail so we didn't lose another fish. Let the rest of them go alive. So not sure if it was their stress or what. They're just post spawn, so they tend to get stressed out easily. Water temperatures were rising, fish were shallow. So anyways, we didn't expand on what we know from this lake. Well, maybe a little bit. That's not fair. We expanded a little bit and picked up a couple of extra keeper spots that we didn't previously have. But what we didn't do is we didn't find the kicker fish spot. So we got some work to do. We got another tournament on this particular lake this year, and then of course this is in both of our series every year. So sooner or later we got to figure out the big fish game here so that we can come in with the 14 pounds it takes to win it. So 9 will probably have us, I'm thinking, bottom third. We'll have to see. It was a tough day. So, but anyways, we had fun. Always a fun time fishing with Alex. We laugh. Plenty of screw ups. We'll see how many of those clips I can get in here. If I have some video of this escapade, there were a few snafus along the way. So So, tournament number 1, we'll go to the weigh-in here and see where we pan out. And yeah, we'll try to do better next time. Any thoughts from you? Is it no thoughts?
I mean, well, we moved to the back to the spot to catch the fish at the right time.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's one thing to talk about. Make sure you know when your major and minor fishing periods are. There was a major today at 12:30. We went out to our spot in the beginning. Bang, bang, bang. We caught some fish. Well, it was a bang, 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 but it was the tail end of the minor. We got 3 of our fish in the boat, and then we were patient. Long period from like 9:30 to 12:30, which was the major. I'm telling you, 12:30 came around. We made sure we were on our best spot, and like clockwork, we caught the remaining 2 fish and several other cull fish at the major period. So definitely know your barometer for the day, and definitely make sure you know the major and minor fishing periods, because they can save you in a day. They can keep your mind right so that you're fishing in a good way at the right time. So.
Well, even moon phases and crayfish hatches.
Yeah, definitely. That's another good point for today. There was a full moon, and we knew that there was a crayfish hatch on the full moon in this time of the summer. Every full moon, the crayfish are going to hatch, and there's going to be a lot of small crayfish prevalent in the system. And sure enough, our live well's full of tiny little crayfish parts. So yeah, on to the willow. Thanks, everyone. See you next time on the water. So there you have it. You can learn even if you take a beat down in a tournament. We're already processing it for the next one. We've got one coming up, and we're gonna, it's a different lake, so this one warms up a little bit, maybe a little bit slower, so that not every lake is immediately in the same spot. So we're gonna go out there with a fresh perspective on that entire transition phase, and don't think that they're not spawning, that there aren't some pre-spawn fish, that there aren't some spawn fish, and there aren't some post-spawn fish. And I'm gonna go out there with 3 different ideas in my mind and areas I'm going to cover during practice. The couple of days I spend out there are going to be scanning areas for each, key areas in each to cover kind of premium water and have a better game plan that covers that spectrum of possibilities in this next tournament. So we'll report back on that. Hope this helps you avoid that beatdown, but if you do, I hope it also helps you think about looking backwards at what happened, kind of journaling it in your mind and thinking about talking to people at the weigh-ins, hang around, swallow your pride, talk to folks, get some key bits of information that can maybe help you piece together that puzzle yourself for the next event. And sooner or later, you're going to end up in the, collecting a check, and that's what we're hoping to do here soon. So hope that helps. Thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time on the water.